Command figures, where power becomes legacy.
Hello, we are back here with Command Figures.
It is good to be back, and Today, we are not just looking at a story. We are, I think, looking at an abyss.
An abyss is the right word. I've been staring at my calendar all morning, just, trying to process the timeline of all this. It is Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. And if you have been anywhere near a screen, a newspaper, or just like a conversation in the last 10 days, you know exactly why we're doing this deep dive.
Oh, it would be impossible to miss. I mean, the entire world has effectively stopped to read these documents.
Just 10 days ago, January 30, 2026, the Department of Justice, after years of, stonewalling, legal battles, endless speculation, they finally pulled the trigger.
They did.
They released the Epstein files. And I would be really clear about the scale here, because I think the headline gets lost in all the tweets and the noise.
It does.
We aren't talking about a few redacted PDFs. We're not talking about a couple flight logs. We're talking about 3.5 million pages.
It's a data dump of truly historic proportions. We are looking at flight logs, yes, but also his personal emails, surveillance logs from the properties, banking records, thousands of photographs, even his scientific correspondence.
It's mind-boggling.
It is. It's the kind of archive that, historians, journalists, and frankly, criminal psychologists will be combing through for the next decade. At least.
And it's completely dominated the news cycle. It's reignited every single conspiracy theory you can imagine. It's confirmed some very, very dark suspicions. And it's exposed details that we're going to get into this are just bizarre.
Bizarre is an understatement.
I mean, stranger than fiction doesn't even begin to cover what's in these files.
And that is precisely the danger with a release of this magnitude. 3.5 million pages.
Oh.
It's just too much for the human brain to process all at once. People get lost in the noise. They see a salacious headline about a celebrity here, a weird photo over there, and they lose the thread of the actual story. They lose the how and the why of it all.
Which is why we are here. Our mission for this deep dive is to try and cut through that noise. We've spent the last 10 days, swimming through these documents. And we're going to combine them with another crucial piece of the puzzle that I think people have already forgotten about.
The Barr deposition.
The transcript of former Attorney General Bill Barr's August 2025 deposition.
That deposition is absolutely the key to understanding the end of the story. The 2026 files give us the life, the network, the crimes. But Barr's testimony gives us the mechanics of the death.
So here is the plan. We are not going to jump around. We are not going to start with the conspiracies or the famous names. We are going to tell this story chronologically.
It's the only way that makes sense.
We are going to start in the 1970s with the mysterious origins of his wealth. Then we'll move to the first investigation in 2005, that infamous sweetheart deal, the 2019 arrest, and of course, the death.
And then, once we have that foundation,
then we are going to finish with the explosive new revelations from this 2026 dump regarding people like Musk, Gates, Trump, Clinton, and the bizarre scientific obsessions that I honestly still can't wrap my head around.
Oh, you really can't understand the 2026 dump if you don't understand how a college dropout from Brooklyn ended up teaching physics at one of the most elite schools in Manhattan. The whole story starts right there.
Okay, so let's unpack this, because that is where this story actually begins, and it's a detail that has always baffled me. We're back in the 1970s. Jeffrey Epstein, born in Brooklyn, 1953, to a, Jewish working-class family.
Right, and by all accounts, he's a smart kid. He's very good at math. He goes to Lafayette High School, graduates in '69. He shows early promise in mathematics. He's a numbers guy.
And he ends up at some pretty serious schools.
He does. He ends up at Cooper Union and then transfers to NYU. Specifically, he gets into the Current Institute of Mathematical Sciences.
I want to pause there for a second. The Current Institute isn't just like math class.
No, not at all. In the 1970s, and still today, it is one of the most prestigious centers for applied mathematics in the entire world. If you are there, you are elite. You are dealing with high-level physics, complex algorithms. It attracts a very, very specific type of intellect.
But here is the first real glitch in the matrix, the first question mark.
Yeah.
He drops out. 1974, he leaves NYU without a degree, no diploma, Nothing.
Correct. And, usually when a working class kid drops out of an elite program in the 70s, what do? They go get a job, driving a taxi or working in a shop. They do not do what Jeffrey Epstein did.
He gets hired to teach physics and advanced math at the Dalton School?
The Dalton School. It's almost unbelievable when you say it out loud.
So for anyone listening who isn't from New York, you have to explain what Dalton is. This isn't just a private school.
No. It is the prep school on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. It is an institution of immense privilege. It is where the masters of the universe, the bankers, the politicians, the socialites send their children to be groomed for the Ivy League.
So the tuition is insane. The standards are.
The tuition costs more than most people earn in a year. The hiring standards are, you'd think, incredibly rigorous.
So how does a 20-something guy with no degree, a college dropout from Brooklyn, get hired to teach physics to the children of the absolute elite?
That is the first big question mark in this whole story, isn't it? And there is a connection here that has fueled speculation for decades, and the new files only highlight it further.
Okay.
The headmaster who hired him, or at least the man who was headmaster during that transition period, was a man named Donald Barr.
Donald Barr. That name rings a massive bell.
It should. Donald Barr was the father of the former Attorney General Bill Barr.
Wait, stop for a second. The odds of that. The father of the Attorney General who eventually oversees the investigation into Epstein's death was the man who gave Epstein his first big break, his entry into that world.
It is a remarkable coincidence. Now, historians and fact-checkers have gone back and forth on this. Some sources say Donald Barr had actually left the school shortly before Epstein started teaching, but other reports say the hiring process overlapped with his tenure.
But either way,
the connection is there. The families are linked in this strange 6 degrees of separation way from the very, very beginning.
So Epstein is at Dalton. He's in this environment of old money, high expectations. How does he fit in? Is he the strict tweed jacket academic type?
Far from it. The sources from that Dalton era, they describe him as charismatic, but in a way that immediately blurred all the lines. He wasn't the guy in a tweed jacket with elbow patches.
Right.
He was showing up to school wearing fur coats. He wore his shirts unbuttoned to the mid-chest with, gold chains showing.
At a prep school in the 1970s. That's
Yes, the disco era, sure. But Dalton was still very conservative. Epstein didn't care. He was attending student parties. There are reports of him showing up when students were drinking, flirting with the girls, gambling with the boys.
So he was treating them like peers, not students.
Exactly. And he was fascinating to them because he was so different, so flashy. He wasn't like their parents' friends.
But that kind of behavior, that usually gets you fired fast.
And it did. He was fired in 1976. The official reasons vary, depending on who you ask. Poor performance, inappropriate conduct, but the writing was on the wall. However, this is where we see the defining characteristic of Jeffrey Epstein's entire life. The fail-up.
The fail-up, I like that.
He gets fired from a teaching job, and instead of hitting the unemployment line, he lands on Wall Street. While he was at Dalton, he wasn't just teaching, he was also tutoring on the side. And one of the students he tutored was the son of a man named Alan Greenberg.
He's Greenberg.
The one and only. The CEO of Bear Stearns.
A total legend.
An absolute legend on Wall Street. A man who famously wrote memos about saving paper clips, but was trading billions of dollars. And Ace Greenberg meets this disgraced physics teacher and says, "Come work for me."
Just like that.
Just like that. Epstein joins Bear Stearns as a junior assistant. A complete nobody. And you have to understand, Bear Stearns back then was a Shark Tank.
Oh, yeah.
Their motto was PSD, poor, smart, and a deep desire to get rich. It was a brutal meritocracy of pure greed.
And Epstein thrived in that environment.
He skyrocketed. In just 4 years, he went from being a junior assistant to a limited partner.
I don't think people who aren't in finance realize how insane that is. To become a limited partner at a major investment bank like that, it usually takes decades of grinding.
It was completely unheard of. But Epstein had found his niche. He wasn't the best trader. He wasn't the best analyst. He was a fixer.
A fixer.
He worked with the firm's wealthiest individual clients, the whales. He helped them with creative tax strategies, moving money offshore, hiding assets. He understood the gray areas of finance better than anyone.
But then, just as quickly as he rose, he's out. 1981.
Another fail-up. A securities violation. We don't have all the specific details, but it was serious enough to get him pushed out of Bear Stearns. But again, he doesn't fall down, he pivots. This is when he creates the persona we all eventually came to know, the international man of mystery.
He starts his own firms, Intercontinental Assets Group, J. Epstein & Co.
Yeah.
They sound very official, very grand.
And he adopts this brilliant, if completely audacious, marketing strategy. He tells everyone in New York, I only accept clients with a net worth over $1 billion.
Which is just genius psychology, isn't it?
It is. It makes him exclusive. It makes him a challenge. And crucially, it gives him the perfect excuse for why nobody knows who his clients are. Oh, you haven't heard of who I represent? Well, of course not. They are too wealthy, too private for you to know. It allowed him to operate in the shadows while projecting immense power.
But he did land one real whale. The white whale that effectively funded the rest of his life, Les Wexner.
The retail mogul. The man behind Victoria's Secret, The Limited, Abercrombie & Fitch. In the 80s and 90s, Wexner was one of the richest men in America. And for reasons that are still, frankly, murky and debated, he brought Epstein into his absolute inner circle.
And not just as a friend or a casual advisor. In 1991, Wexner gave Epstein power of attorney.
I want to be very specific about what that means because it's a term people throw around. It's not just manage my stock portfolio.
Right.
Power of attorney means Epstein could sign checks for Wexner. He could buy and sell property in Wexner's name. He could hire and fire people at Wexner's companies. He could borrow money. He was, legally speaking, acting as Les Wexner.
That is an insane amount of trust to give to a failed physics teacher with a securities violation on his record. It makes no sense.
It's one of the central mysteries. And the files show that Epstein used this power to, well, siphon off millions to acquire property. The famous Manhattan townhouse was originally Wexner's, and to build his entire empire using Wexner's credit and credibility.
So while he's doing all this high-end financial maneuvering, he's also swimming in some very, very dirty water. We have to talk about the Ponzi scheme connection. Stephen Hoffenberg.
Right. Towers Financial. This was one of the biggest Ponzi schemes in history before Bernie Madoff came along. Hoffenberg and Epstein were partners. They worked out of the same offices. Hoffenberg was the face of the operation, but he later claimed Epstein was the architect of the financial structure.
And when it all collapsed?
Hoffenberg went to prison for 18 years. Epstein, he wasn't even charged. He just walked away, completely clean, untouched.
This pattern, getting fired from Dalton and landing at Bear Stearns, getting kicked out of Bear Stearns and landing Wexner, escaping a massive Ponzi scheme scot-free, it leads us directly to the spy theory.
The 2026 dump is very, very heavy on this. The theory has always been out there, but now there's more to it. The idea that Epstein wasn't just a brilliant con man, he was an asset, an intelligence asset.
Okay, so let's look at the evidence for that, because it sounds like a movie plot.
Well, let's start with the raid. When the FBI raided his townhouse in 2019, they opened his safe. Inside, amidst the loose diamonds and the piles of cash, was an Austrian passport.
An Austrian passport? Why would he have that?
It's from the 1980s. It had Epstein's photo, but it had a fake name, and under residence, it listed Saudi Arabia.
Hold on. Why does a Jewish money manager from New York need a fake Austrian passport claiming he lives in Saudi Arabia?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It suggests he was moving through the world in a way that required deep cover. The new files reference meetings with Ehud Barak, the former Israeli prime minister. There are logs of visits to Israeli military bases.
So the speculation is Mossad. Or CIA.
The speculation, and it is supported by some intelligence documents in the dump, is that he was tied to the Mossad, or perhaps the CIA, or maybe he was a freelancer serving both.
Which brings us to the honey trap theory.
Exactly. The idea is that his entire operation, the island, the girls, the parties, wasn't just about his own perversion. That was part of it, sure. But the primary function was data gathering. He was compromising powerful men scientists, politicians, royals, recording them, and then storing that information.
It was blackmail operation.
Or leverage.
Yeah.
In the world of intelligence, leverage is the ultimate currency. If you have videos of a world leader in a compromising position, you own them. And if Epstein was the keeper of that vault, it would explain why he seemed untouchable for so long.
But even the untouchable eventually get touched. Which moves us to part 2, the first fall. We're in 2005, Palm Beach.
This is where the whole facade begins to crack. Epstein has his mansion in Palm Beach. He's living this life of luxury. But the local police start getting complaints. A parent calls about her stepdaughter.
And we have to give credit here to the police chief at the time, Michael Reiter. He didn't seem to care about Epstein's money or his connections.
He didn't. He treated this like a serious, organized crime investigation. He launched a raid on the mansion. And what they found inside was, well, it was a factory of abuse. But they also found the infrastructure of that honey trap we were just talking about.
Pinhole camera.
Hidden cameras, wired into the ceilings and the walls of the massage rooms and the bedrooms. Again, if this is just for your own gratification, maybe you record it. But the setup described in the police reports was professional grade. It was surveillance.
So the police had him cold. They had victims coming forward. They had evidence of a pyramid scheme where girls were paid a few $100s to recruit other girls. They were ready to put him away for life.
They were. Chief Ryder was pushing for multiple felony counts. He wanted to throw the book at him. But then the state attorney, a guy named Barry Krischer, started to waver. There were reports of him being too soft, of dragging his feet. And then the feds stepped in.
And we get the sweetheart deal of 2008.
This is a legal abomination. I don't use that word lightly. Alexander Acosta was the U.S. attorney at the time. Alan Dershowitz was Epstein's lawyer. They went into a room behind closed doors and hammered out a deal that just defies all logic.
Break it down for us. What were the terms?
Okay. Epstein pled guilty to 2 state prostitution charges. State charges, not federal sex trafficking, which could have carried a life sentence. He was sentenced to 18 months in a county jail, and he ended up serving only 13.
But the way he served that time, I mean, this is the part that just makes you realize there are 2 justice systems in this country.
Absolutely.
Sure.
He was housed in the Stockade Wing, which is basically a private area, but the real kicker was the work release. For 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, Jeffrey Epstein was allowed to leave the jail.
Leave the jail. Like, just walk out the front door.
His driver would pick him up in the morning. He would go to his office in West Palm Beach. He would spend the day there holding meetings, ordering lunch, doing business, and then at night he would go back to the jail to sleep.
That's not prison. That's a hotel with a really annoying curfew.
It was a complete joke. But the most insidious part of that 2008 deal wasn't even the work release. It was the NPA.
The non-prosecution agreement.
This, for many people, is the smoking gun of the intelligence theory. Usually, a plea deal covers the defendant. You plead guilty, we don't prosecute you further for these specific crimes.
Right.
This deal had a clause that granted immunity to any potential co-conspirators.
So it preemptively exonerated anyone else who might have been involved. Ghislaine Maxwell, the girls who recruited everyone.
Yes. It was a blanket of protection thrown over his entire network. The document mentioned John Doe's, unknown associates. Everyone was safe. Now, why would a local prosecutor agree to that? Why would a U.S. attorney sign off on a deal that protects unnamed criminals?
Unless the goal wasn't just to protect Epstein.
But to protect the powerful people around Epstein.
And to top it all off, they kept this deal a secret from the victims.
Which a federal judge later ruled was a clear violation of the Crime Victims' Rights Act. The whole thing was a conspiracy of silence orchestrated at the highest levels.
So he skates. He does his time, keeps his money, keeps his network, keeps his friends. For 10 years, he goes back to operating. Until the world changes. 2019.
The Me Too movement happens. The Miami Herald publishes their incredible series, Perversion of Justice. The public pressure becomes too great to ignore. So on July 6, 2019, Epstein returns from a trip to Paris. He lands his private jet at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey.
And this time, the FBI isn't there to shake his hand or look the other way.
They're there to arrest him.
They raid the Manhattan townhouse again. And the inventory this time is just damning.
Thousands of photos of women and girls, hard drives labeled with things like girls and Miss Nude, the safe with the $70,000 in cash, the loose diamonds, and that fake Austrian passport.
This was it. This was the end of the line. He's denied bail. He is sent to the MCC, the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan.
The MCC is supposed to be the federal fortress. It's where they keep terrorists. El Chapo was held there. It's not a place you just escape from.
And yet, on August 10th, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein is found dead in his cell.
Ruled a suicide.
Which brings us to the core of our analysis today. We need to do a really deep dive into that Bill Barr deposition. This is from August 2025. Barr was the Attorney General at the time of the death. He testified for hours to the House Oversight Committee, and his testimony breaks down that night, minute by minute.
Barr's position in all of this is fascinating. He acknowledges openly that the official narrative sounds, completely impossible. He himself calls it a perfect storm of screw-ups.
Okay, let's play devil's advocate here for a minute. I'm going to list the screw-ups, the coincidences, and you tell me what Barr's official explanation was. Because to me, this just reads like a checklist of how to let a high-value prisoner die.
Go ahead.
It's a long list.
Okay, screw-up number 1. Suicide watch. Epstein had an incident on July 23. He was found on the floor of his cell with marks on his neck. He claimed he was attacked. The prison said it was a suicide attempt. He's put on 2047 suicide watch.
Right.
But then, just days before his death, he was taken off suicide watch. Barr testified that this was a decision made by the doctoral-level psychological staff at the prison. They evaluated him, they cleared him. Barr called it a horrible mistake, in hindsight, obviously, but he insisted it was a clinical error, not some malicious order from on high.
Screw up number 2. The roommate. Epstein had a cellmate, a man named Nicholas Tartaglione.
A former cop accused of a quadruple homicide. A huge guy, a bodybuilder, a terrifying individual.
Tartaglione was transferred out on August 9, the day before the death. And procedure dictates that you immediately bring a replacement in. You do not leave a high-risk inmate alone in a cell. They never brought anyone in.
Barr admitted this was a major breach of protocol. He basically blamed it on bureaucratic incompetence. The prison was overcrowded, the paperwork was slow. He said the staff just didn't get around to it.
Didn't get around to it. Okay. Screw up number 3. The guards. They were supposed to do checks on him every 30 minutes. Mandatory rounds.
Barr was absolutely scathing about this. He testified that the guards failed to perform any checks for about 8 hours straight. From roughly 10:30 p.m. to 6:30 a.m., nobody laid eyes on Jeffrey Epstein.
And they lied about it in the logs.
They falsified the logbooks. They wrote down that they did the checks every 30 minutes, like clockwork. But the subsequent investigation found they were actually at their desks, asleep, or browsing the internet.
Doing what?
Specifically, Barr mentioned they were shopping online for motorcycles and furniture.
They are shopping for motorcycles while the most high-value, high-risk prisoner in American history is dying 50 feet away from them.
And then there's the sign. This is a detail from the deposition that it really sticks with me. Barr mentioned there was a handwritten sign taped to the officer's desk in the unit.
What did it say?
It read, quote, "Mandatory rounds must be conducted every 30 minutes on Epstein, as per God."
As per God.
Presumably, God was a sarcastic nickname for the warden, or maybe just a reference to how important Epstein was supposed to be. But think about the psychology there. The sign is literally staring them in the face, a reminder of how high the stakes are. And they still ignored it to shop for a couch.
It's mind-boggling. Which brings us to screw up number 4. The cameras.
The 2 cameras pointed at the entrance to Epstein's cell tier. Barr confirmed there was a DVR failure. The cameras themselves were working. They were streaming a live feed to the control room, but the hard drive that was supposed to record the footage had crashed.
Of course it did.
They didn't realize it until after the fact when they went to pull the tape.
Come on. The cameras fail on that night, of all nights.
Barr insists, based on the FBI and the Inspector General's forensic analysis, that it was just old, garbage equipment. He said the federal prison system is basically held together with duct tape and good intentions. He blamed neglect, not conspiracy.
But there was other video, right? From the stairwell? This is where we get the orange shape theory.
Right. This was a huge point of contention. CBS News hired their own experts to analyze the grainy footage from a camera in the stairwell leading to the tier. And they claim they saw an orange shape moving up the stairs during the night.
Implying an inmate in an orange jumpsuit.
Yeah.
Or an assassin dressed as one.
Exactly. But Barr was very dismissive of this. He said the Inspector General's office reviewed every single frame. They concluded the orange shape was just a corrections officer making rounds on a different level, or maybe a light reflection. He was absolutely adamant. Nobody entered that tier who wasn't supposed to be there.
There was one new detail from the deposition that I had never heard before. The phone call.
Yes. This was a revelation. The night before he died, Epstein was allowed to make an unmonitored phone call.
Unmonitored? I thought all non-attorney calls were recorded.
They're supposed to be. It was another breach. The staff let him use the phone in a private room. For years, the internet rumor was that he called Ghislaine Maxwell to give final instructions. Barr clarified in 2025. It was not Ghislaine Maxwell.
So who was it?
He called a woman in Belarus, a girlfriend. Barr described the call as a goodbye. He was telling her he loved her, apologizing for the hard times that were coming, and Barr uses this as his primary evidence for suicide. He says he was saying his goodbyes, he knew what he was going to do.
But the autopsy. You have Dr. Michael Baton, hired by the family.
The autopsy remains the major friction point. The official New York City medical examiner ruled it suicide by hanging. But the family hired Dr. Michael Baden, who is a legendary forensic pathologist. He observed the autopsy and noted 3 separate fractures in Epstein's neck, in his hyoid bone and thyroid cartilage.
And that's rare for a hanging, right?
Extremely rare, especially in what's called a low suspension hanging, where the person is kneeling or sitting, not fully suspended. Baden argued that those specific fractures are hallmark signs of manual strangulation, of homicide.
And what was Barr's response to that?
He falls back on the locked door. He says, the video shows nobody went in, the logs show nobody went in, so unless he strangled himself or the invisible man did it, it had to be suicide. He calls it a perfect storm of screw-ups, but he vehemently, repeatedly denies a high-level cover-up of a murder.
A perfect storm. The cameras, the guards, the roommate, the suicide watch. Every single fail-safe failing at the exact same moment.
It strains credulity to the breaking point, but that is the official record.
Which brings us to the present. The man is dead. But the secrets... Well, the secrets just got dumped onto the internet for everyone to see.
January 30th, 2026. The Epstein Files Transparency Act. It was actually signed by Donald Trump at the very end of his term and then executed by the current administration. 3.5 million pages.
Now, we have to be very careful here. We need to state for the record that appearing in these files, in a flight log, an email, a photo, doesn't automatically mean someone committed a crime.
Correct. It shows proximity, it shows you were in the orbit, it shows the social network, but some of the specific details, they paint a very, very vivid picture.
Let's start with the big political names. Donald Trump.
His name appears over 1,800 times in the documents.
That's a massive number.
It is. Now, a lot of that is just press clippings that Epstein saved, or flight logs from other people's planes where Trump was mentioned, or messages discussing him. They were friends in the 90s and early 2000s. That's undeniable.
But there is a specific email exchange that really stands out, and it involves Steve Bannon.
Yes. This is a strange one. Epstein is emailing with Bannon. This is before he became Trump's strategist, and they're sort of gossiping. But then Epstein drops a line that just makes you stop scrolling. He says he has photos of Trump in his underwear.
He actually wrote that. In his underwear.
He did. He told Bannon, I'll give you the details when I see you.
Why are you keeping photos of a billionaire real estate mogul in his underwear? What is the purpose of that?
Again, go back to the honey trap. Leverage. Even if it's not illegal, it's embarrassing. It's collateral. Though, to be fair to the complete record, the files also confirm that the relationship soured. Trump did eventually ban Epstein from Mar-a-Lago.
Okay, let's talk about Bill Clinton.
The new photos released in 2026 are, well, they're very difficult to explain away. We've seen photos of Clinton with Ghislaine Maxwell before on the plane, but there's a new one of them in a hot tub.
A hot tub?
And more photos on the private jet, the so-called Lolita Express. The emails in this dump suggest a much closer relationship than just casual acquaintances. There are discussions about trips, about meetings. It raises very serious questions about whether Clinton was aware of the nature of the company that Epstein was keeping on those trips.
And Prince Andrew. I mean, I feel like his reputation was already completely destroyed, but this
is the nail in the coffin. The new photos show him in very compromising positions. One witness statement describes him crawling on the floor at one of Epstein's parties.
Crawling on the floor.
It's undignified, it's grotesque, and there are emails from 2010. This is crucial. This is after Epstein was a convicted sex offender in Florida. Prince Andrew is emailing him about getting introductions to a Russian woman.
So he didn't care about the conviction?
Not at all. He was still using Epstein as a fixer.
Let's move to Silicon Valley. Elon Musk. This was a surprise to a lot of people.
It was. There is an email exchange from 2012 and 2013. Musk writes to Epstein. The subject line is casual, something like catching up. But the test of the email, he asks, when is the wildest party?
He actually typed that out. When is the wildest party?
He did. And Epstein replies with a very clinical, almost business-like breakdown of the ratio of women to men on the island for a few upcoming dates.
Ratio. It's so transactional and creepy.
Musk has claimed in the past that he never went to the island. And maybe he didn't. But these emails show he was certainly, at the very least, inquiring about the menu.
And Bill Gates.
This one feels darker. It's less about partying and more about straight-up coercion. The files contain a series of emails referring to a man named Boris, and they seem to outline the alleged blackmail scheme that we've only heard rumors about until now.
This is the affair he supposedly had with the bridge player.
Right, a Russian bridge player. Epstein apparently found out about the affair. The files contain some vague but ominous mentions of medical issues. There are references to STDs. The implication in the emails is that Epstein was holding this information over Gates' head. It reads like, I know about the girl, I know about the medical issue, now let's talk about that big charitable donation to my foundation.
It's the honey trap in its purest, most cynical form.
It is weaponized information, it's compromise.
But then we get to the stuff that makes me feel like I'm reading a sci-fi horror novel.
Yeah.
The weird science.
Transhumanism, eugenics.
The files reveal that Epstein wasn't just obsessed with sex or money or power. He was obsessed with eugenics. He was obsessed with the future of the human race.
More specifically, his contribution to the future of the human race. He was a narcissist of the highest possible order. He truly believed his DNA was superior and that he needed to spread it.
The Zorro Ranch plan.
This is detailed in the files, in architectural plans and memos. His ranch in New Mexico. He had architects drawing up plans for a facility that wasn't just a home. It was designed to be a birthing center.
A baby-making ranch.
The plan was to impregnate dozens of women at a time. He wanted to seed the human race with his own genetic material.
It sounds like something out of a cult leader's fantasy playbook.
It does, but he was backing it up with hard science, or trying to. There are emails with top-tier scientists, people from MIT, from Harvard, discussing things like human computers, discussing brain-to-machine interface.
He wanted to upload his brain to a computer.
He was terrified of death. He was funding research into transferring human consciousness to computers. He wanted to live forever. And he was using his money and his connections to seduce the scientific community into helping him. Stephen Hawking is in photos on the island. Woody Allen, over 100 meetings are logged in his calendars. He surrounded himself with what he considered to be superior minds.
I want to bring up one specific detail from the international files, the HT connection.
Ah, yes. This was a major focus of the European press this past week. The files contain multiple references to an Indonesian businessman who is only referred to by the initials HT.
And the intelligence documents link him to the CIA of Indonesia.
That is the exact phrasing used in one of the memos. It alleges a connection between this businessman and Indonesian state intelligence, and by extension, a relationship with the Trump administration during the 2016 transition.
So it's another thread in this global tapestry.
Exactly. It shows Epstein's network wasn't just New York and London and Paris. It was truly global. He was a hub, a nexus point for powerful people from every corner of the world.
We also have to talk about the codes. Pizza, grape soda.
If you followed the Pizzagate saga years ago, this is going to sound very familiar. The word pizza appears hundreds of times in the emails, in contexts that make no sense. Do you want pizza? I'm ordering pizza for the girls.
And grape soda.
Right. Now, a skeptic could say, maybe the guy just really liked pizza. But in the context of sex trafficking investigations, and given the other coded language used in these files, these terms are widely flagged by investigators as potential code words. Pizza often refers to young girls. Grape soda might refer to a specific sexual act or a particular type of drug.
And the temple on the island. For the first time, we saw photos from inside.
Yes, the photos of the interior. For years, we only saw that drone footage of the strange blue and white striped building with the gold dome. The new photos show the inside. And it looks ritualistic.
It feeds directly into the Moloch worship theories that have been floating around.
It does. There are strange statues. There are these weird windowless rooms with seating arranged in a circle. It gives ammunition to the idea that there was some kind of pseudo-religious or ritualistic aspect to the abuse. That it wasn't just hedonism, it was something much darker and more organized.
So we have the timeline, we have the suspicious death, we have the files. Where does this leave us? What happens now?
Well, we have to look at the aftermath. Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison. The files mention that she appealed to Trump for clemency before he left office, but obviously that didn't happen. She's serving her time.
But why did we get these files now, in 2026? What was the trigger?
The dead man's switch.
Okay, this is the tech angle.
The 2026 files allude to a specific server, a hidden, heavily encrypted server that was physically located in the U.S. Virgin Islands. The theory, and it seems to be supported by the DOJ's actions, is that this server was an encrypted dead man's switch.
Meaning if Epstein died.
If he died, or if the server wasn't pinged by him or one of his agents for a certain amount of time, or if it was breached, it would be programmed to release the payload, the blackmail files. The DOJ's breach of this server is likely what precipitated this massive document dump. They found the hoard. They found his insurance policy.
So what does this all mean? We've walked through 50 years of history. From a math dropout to a global predator with connections to everyone, what's the takeaway?
To me, it highlights two massive things. One is the power of intelligence. If Epstein was an asset for the Mossad, the CIA, or just a freelancer serving the highest bidder, it explains everything. It explains the immunity, it explains the endless money, it explains why he could operate in plain sight for decades. He was useful to powerful people.
Until he wasn't.
Until he became a liability. And the second thing, it highlights the systemic failure, or as Bill Barr calls it, the screw-ups. But it's not just one guard sleeping on the job. It's a system that allows a predator to buy his way out of a life sentence in 2008. It's a justice system that looks the other way because the predator is friends with princes and presidents and prime ministers.
And Barr insists, to this day, there was no high-level cover-up of the death, just catastrophic incompetence.
He does. And the listener, you, have to decide for yourself. Is a perfect storm of screw-ups, a satisfying explanation. When the cameras fail, the guards sleep, the roommate vanishes, and the suicide watch is lifted all at the exact same moment for the most important prisoner on the planet.
It is a heavy question, and I don't know if we'll ever have a perfect answer. I really don't.
No, probably not.
So here's a final provocative thought for you to chew on. If Epstein was indeed an intelligence asset, a honey trap operator who actually owned him, was it a country, was it an agency, or was it a private group of powerful interests? And with 3.5 million pages out now, are we actually looking at the full picture? Or are we just looking at the pages they wanted us to see to finally close the book on this forever?
That is the question that keeps me up at night. What aren't we seeing?
Thank you for listening. Do not forget to click like and subscribe and write your opinion in the comments section.